Decals, how to make your own. Hi, welcome back to St Blazy Model World. Now before we go any further, I must say that this is going to be part one of a mini-series. That's partly because I live in a remote part of Cornwall and Wi-Fi is a distant dream. So if I make a 20-minute video, for example, that takes several hours to upload to YouTube. So let's get on with it. There's no doubt about it that adding decals to our models really can give them the finishing touch. And by applying specific decals that we've made ourselves, we can even create a customised look for our models to give us something that perhaps and hopefully nobody else has. Now lastly, before we get into the process itself, I have to offer a word of caution on the legal front. If you're going to make a decal that says something like "Ye Olde Weldy Furniture Company" and put it on your models and sell it on things like eBay, that's going to be fine. But if you're going to start using decals that have, for example, W.H. Smith on them and start selling those on eBay, then you are effectively making money out of a trademark and a company name, and you can expect the lawyers to come calling. At this point I should apologise if my voice is not as clear as normal. I've not been well of late, but on the mend now. So there are several points to consider when you look at making your own decals, and the very first thing, of course, is you have to have an idea what your decals are going to be, what they're going to represent, and most importantly, how they will enhance your models, because there's no point in going to the effort of making them if they're just going to languish away in a drawer somewhere. So we're going to look at ideas. So once you've had your ideas, the next stage is production, and for this you really do need to have at least some basic grasp of using a computer, a laptop, or if you go with Mac systems, one of those. And there's a couple of ways you can do it. We'll get round to that. So once you've made your decals, and they'll look great when they come out of the printer, once you start applying them to a model, you'll notice there's a few things that might have gone wrong. So we're going to cover that as well, and hopefully I'll stop you making some of the mistakes that I made when I first started to make my own decals. We're also going to look at the application of decals, the process of putting them on your models, because there are a few do's and don'ts there as well, and that applies to decals that you've made yourself or ones that come supplied with the model that you've purchased. Now at this point it's worth spending a few minutes just talking about the difference between decals and tampo printing. Now generally decals, and here are some that I've produced myself, are transfers produced on a sheet of paper, and you peel them off from their backing paper and apply them to a model. And that can either usually be water slide, which is the method used to separate the backing paper from the transfer itself, or sticky back, where the decal is supplied with a tacky surface that allows you to affix it to the model that it's going to go on. But either way, these are decals. Now decals should not be confused with tampo printing. Tampo printing is the process of adding fine detail to a model during its production, and that can be lettering and symbols, as well as detail such as elements like the grille area on this model coach. If you want to know more about tampo printing, stand by, because at some point in the near future I'll be producing a fairly short video on how you can deal with tampo printing when it comes to producing Code 3 models, whether those models be buses and coaches or trains or any other area where tampo printing has been applied. So when it comes to ideas for our decals, why would we want to make our own? Well, there are several reasons, and of course the options are available to all types of modelers. If you owned a fleet of Spitfires, you might want them to have a different squadron number from the one that came with the kit. If you're into model railways, you've probably got a rake of tankers. And we'll just get the camera back into focus, that would help. There we go. And of course they are production items, So each of these tankers would have the same serial number, and you might want to do something about that. And you could of course customize the tankers by removing the current branding and replacing it with something else more of your choosing. If you're into model buses and coaches, you might want to recreate a fleet that hasn't been covered by the mainstream manufacturers and go down the Code 3 route. So you would want to create your own fleet names. You might want to give your locos their own specific numbers. You could also replace decals that are tired or damaged, and you could enhance your models further by creating decals that aren't on the original models at all. You could buy 10 of these, but they'd all be the same, because they're the same production run. But how much more interesting might your collection be if you could give them your own destinations and routes and change the registration and fleet numbers? Now, once you've got to grips with the process, there's nothing to stop you applying decals that you've made yourself to buildings and shops and other parts of scenery. And so now here we are outside Camel Garage, repairs and services established 1959. And even the red line is a decal. The possibilities are endless. So that's it for part 1 of this series on how to make your own decals. Please hit the like button, subscribe. Please remember to subscribe. I know we keep on about it, all YouTube content creators do. And stay tuned. Part 2 coming soon.